What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I figured since this is the final full day of the season, we might as well take a look at some of the most insane games that I had this season, including the most attack-weighted team possible, tons of crazy XL Pokemon, clutch 1v3 sweeps, impossible comebacks, and so much more. So if you're new here, you're absolutely in for a treat, and if you do enjoy this video, definitely consider subscribing, as this will be a taster for what's to come next season on this channel. But even if you've actually seen the majority of my videos this season, this video is still certainly worth the watch, as you may have forgotten about some of these absolute bangers of games this season. Now, before we get into the question of the day, I want to give a quick shout out to Old Schooler, Giorgio Ardito, Michael Michaels, 7 Lone Star 7, Marble Rose, BD Mesogur, and DC2607 for their donations and gifted memberships across my recent couple of live streams. Of course, I've done a few live streams since my last video, so unfortunately don't have the same screenshots of each of the donations because there were quite a few of them, but I very much appreciate the support from all of you guys. Also, a few of these subscribers have suggested very creative themes for future live streams, so I'm very grateful for that. But anyways, with that being said, let's finally get into the question of the day. What was your favorite video that I uploaded this season? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the compilation now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Dragalge into Corviknight. So this is a very awkward core breaker to the team. Of course, they're going to double resist the Acid and the Fury Cutters, so double resisting all the fast move damage. I'm staying in with Dragalge, as of course I can just about tank a Sky Attack, whereas my backline will not be able to tank any charge moves, but Focus Blast connects, it does big damage, and now I can swap into my Carablast. At this point, of course, I'm going to have to shield, respect the damage from a Sky Attack, and the opponent swaps into Dedenne. Do they know about the Drill Run coverage? I am full sending it, and Drill Run is unfortunately shielded. Maybe should have seen that coming, as they are going to be on Parabolic Charge and probably just going to shield anything I throw the first time around before they boost up their defense. Either way, we do reach a last second X-Scissor, but they call it this time. They're able to tank that very comfortably as it is resisted, and they've just boosted their defense. We come in with Dragalge just to force the opponent to throw their energy. However, they're now going to be double boosted as Parabolic Charge gets the KO from that range. We can come in with an Ninjask, and I'm able to outpace them to that first Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace gonna grab the final shield here, and the opponent is gonna throw straight away. At this point, I'm expecting the opponent probably gonna try and make a catch on the next charge move, as I will outpace them. So they swap back into Corviknight, and I don't know if I can go for a full farm down there. I believe they're maybe 1 or 2 sand attacks away from the next charge move, so I do farm up 2 back-to-back moves, but they come in with their final Pokemon, a Shadow Golurk, and Ninjask able to triple resist the Mud Slaps. Shadow Ball gets the one shot, and they were still 1 Thunder Shock away from the next Parabolic Charge. We outpace them to the Aerial Ace, taking out Dedenne, and somehow Ninjask able to pull off one of the most insane sweeps I have ever seen in the Go Battle League. Let's go into the first battle, leading Attack Form Deoxys into a Gastrodon. So you're going to see these Mud Slaps absolutely shredding through my HP. Deoxys just barely able to reach the Psycho Boost, but the opponent does not respect it, and with a 257 attack stat, that is absolutely going to get the one shot there. They come in with Typhlosion, so of course I'm going to have to match them with my own Fire type. The opponent not throwing straight away. Instead, it looks like farming up to 100 energy. So I fire off that Mystical Fire, dropping their attack, and now I assume the opponent will just throw back-to-back Thunder Punches, but now I can sneak 2 Incinerates through and hopefully put them into range where Pheromosa can come in and Bug Bite, farm them down before they get off the next charge move. And not only that, with the energy advantage, Pheromosa able to reach the close combat. Close combat double super effective, so it grabs that final shield, but Blacephalon left with a Mystical Fire loaded, and again, this is going to be double super effective. It will very comfortably get that one shot up against the Sand Slash, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that trainer there. Into the next battle, we're going to see a mirror match. Hisui and Samurott in the lead, and at this point I'm recognizing they're probably not going to be on X-Scissor, in which case I can no-shield whatever they throw here, and then I'm going to bank the energy, swap into my Zoroark, and whilst this is still going to be resisted damage, Foul Play from this range should get the KO. So we fire off the Foul Play straight away. We do get the KO there. The opponent comes in with the Gastrodon, and you can see these Mud Slaps are absolutely shredding through our HP. We're going to go straight for Shadow Ball, only reaching 1 move, and Shadow Ball is unfortunately shielded there. But that's okay, I'm going to come back in with my Samurott here. The opponent does not throw straight away, which means I can just go straight for a Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse grabs the final shield. I'm then able to swap. And of course, I was in range where they could just go for Body Slam. So Body Slam double resisted. And the opponent actually swaps into Drift Blim here. And that is absolutely fine with me. We've already just seen Nightshade gets the one shot up against the Drift Blim. The opponent has to commit to a full farm down here. They're not going to do so. So I can just safely shield up the Body Slam, fire off the Shadow Ball. And Shadow Ball will be more than enough damage from this range to take out the Gastrodon. And I'm able to take that game. But GG's to that trainer there, and into the Nightmare lead, we see a Talonflame. My only win condition is, for whatever reason, if they no-shield the Rock Tomb. But unfortunately, they do shield. So at this point, I'm going to come in with a Genetic. I'm just going to give up. I'm going to no-shield this. The opponent fires off a blind Brave Bird, but then they swap out there. So I recognize I still have a sliver of hope here. But what I kind of need to do is grab the final shield from the Dunsparce here. But I recognize as well, if I don't grab that shield, I need to deal minimal damage. But I need to also get a Night Slash boost. And we do exactly both of those things there. So at this point, I kind of still need Shadow Scizor to live and incinerate, which I don't think will be the case. But let's see what their final Pokemon is. It's going to be a Gastrodon, so we can go for the Trailblaze here. Of course, Trailblaze were already boosted. It gets the one shot. And now, once again, my win condition is if the opponent no shields for whatever reason. And they do exactly that. I don't understand why. But Night Slash takes out the Talonflame from that health range. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see a Shadow Whiscash in the lead, which is definitely where we want to see it. However, this is still just a neutral matchup, maybe even a slightly losing matchup for the Frillish. But either way, I no-shield the first move there. Gonna fire off one Hex, then go for that Nightshade. Nightshade going to do decent damage here. A second Nightshade will very nearly KO from this range. So Nightshade grabs a shield from the opponent, but the opponent can now overfarm considerably, farming up to very close to back-to-back Mud Bombs. At this point, I realize they're still going to outpace me even if I shield there, so I do let the Frillish go down. We're going to come in with the Bronzong. I can tank a Mud Bomb, so I might let the next move go through, but for now, we're going to fire for Side Shock here. We do overfarm ever so slightly. Side Shock grabs the final shield from the opponent. They bank a charge move before swapping into Shadow Scizor, and unfortunately, they're able to outpace me to the move, but Bronzong, pretty bulky, we're able to tank that. Fire off the Payback, and I'm going to go for an undercharge. Payback does not get the KO, but it puts them into Metal Sound farm down range for the Rever Room. I realize Whiscash does have that Mud Bomb loaded, so of course, gonna use my final shield here, but I will commit to a full Metal Sound farm down. Can we get the farm down the opponent? Looks like we will, so the opponent swaps into a Shadow Cradily. I'm going straight for Overheat. Overheat does huge damage, but I debuff my attack, and that means I do not get the farm down. The opponent reaches the Rock Tomb, but that also does not get the KO, and it allows me to come out with the Overheat loaded. We are now triple debuffed in our attack, but it doesn't matter. From that range, we take out the Whiscash, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's up on there into next battle, and leading with the Crustle this time around, and we will be leading with it for the remainder of this video. The opponent's going to swap into Jellicent. Now, unfortunately, I do not have an answer at all to Jellicent. Of course, Fury Cutter is resisted. Surf going to hit for super effective damage up against the entire team, but I'm going to no-shield the first move. Crustle is the bulkiest Pokemon on this team. Here, I try to throw on CMP. The opponent does not throw straight away, so of course, we give them a full Hex in for free, but we come in with the Shiny Shadow Armaldo. I'm going to shield this up here, and I could throw straight away, but this time I didn't want to throw on alignment again, and as a result, we end up having to double shield the Armaldo before they swap into a Zekrom. So here, going straight for the Rock Blast. Rock Blast grabs the first shield from the opponent. I'm now going to overfarm in this matchup substantially, fire off another Rock Blast, and if the opponent tries to commit to a full farm down here, Armaldo might reach another Rock Blast, and we're able to do so. Rock Blast number 3 gets the KO up against the Zekrom there. They come back in with the Jellicent. This game is still not over. I'm going to wait out my switch clock, come in with my Cleaver, and I will be attempting to catch a charge move onto my Crustle, able to do so. Of course, Surf actually going to be undercharged by the opponent. Very smart play. They get a slight energy advantage on their Galvantula, and as a result, they just barely outpace me by one turn. But Lunge does not get the KO. They debuff my attack. That's not going to stop a Stone Edge from getting the one shot here, but the Fury Cutters, they're assisted. It's a fast move damage race, and Cleaver comes out on top just barely, as I'm able to take that game. Let's go into the first battle, leading Pawniard into Annihilate, and we've got a very easy strategy here up against Annihilate. We are going to instantly hit that top left button. There is just nothing we can do there at all, but GG's to that trainer, and I do want to stress, these are absolutely hand-picked battles. I lost so many games with this team up against teams like that, where we saw a Shadow Annihilate in the lead, and I just have to concede immediately. But anyways, into the next battle, and a much better lead matchup for me. They're now going to say swap into a Shadow Palkia. So I'm going to stay in with a Pawniard. We don't really have much fast move pressure aside from the Pawniard up against the Shadow Palkia, as Metal Sand is resisted, and Snarl from the Bishop just doesn't hit very hard. So at this point, we fire off another Night Slash, we get the KO, we get the boost, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent's going to come in with a shiny Shadow Kanto Marowak, and suddenly things went really good, and suddenly now they are looking really bad for me. Of course, Mudslap is going to shred through the Bishop. I actually swap out there, predicting the opponent might try and catch a Dark Pulse, and as a result, it works out perfectly for me. Bishop and King Gambit gonna completely wall the moves from this Arbok. The opponent fires off the Acid Spray first, then the Dark Pulse, but I'm able to tank it. We come out with the Focus Blast loaded, so we are absolutely full sending it. Focus Blast grabs the final shield. The opponent was one away from another Bone Club, so we go for the extra Snarl. Dark Pulse gets the KO up against the shiny Shadow Kanto Marowak, and I'm able to take that game. And that is not the only Shadow Sizzle I saw, but into the next battle, and GG's to the opponent by the way, and another really bad lead matchup for me. However, this is a lot more manageable just because we're not really taking much fast move pressure at all, so I'm going to shield this. They actually bait with an Ice Beam, which is certainly painful for me, but we can now shield that, fire off the Icy Wind, and I will reach a second Icy Wind before they do reach the next charge move, so even if they full send a Play Rough next time, Frigibax might actually be able to tank it. So of course, we're now, double debuffing their attack. They've got Bubble for the fast move, which is resisted, and we do tank it, and they're not going to be able to farm me down before we reach a third Icy Wind here with the Frigibax. So Icy Wind gets them fairly low. Unfortunately, not quite low enough to snipe with the Arctobax, but the opponent banks the energy before swapping into a Talonflame. We're going to fire off the Icy Wind there. Icy Wind is going to be shielded. And at this point, I can probably no-shield this. They fire off the Flame Charge, boosting up their attack once again. But Arctobax just barely able to reach a Dragon Claw before going down to the Incinerate damage. At this point, of course, all shields are down on the opponent's end. However, I do have to be wary as the opponent does have a move on the Azu. So I swap, I catch the charge move onto the Frigibax, and that puts me in a really good position. Now, the opponent's going to come in with a Ferrothorn, which is fine with me, and they're not going to farm up to a potential Flash Cannon. The opponent fires off an Acid Spray, which I did not expect to see. However, that could make things a little bit tricky for me. So we're going to fire off an Avalanche. Avalanche does big damage, and we can actually outpace them to the Dragon Claw here. Dragon Claw is resisted damage, but it gets the KO, and everything else should be in Dragon Breath farm down range now. So of course, I'm going to use my final shield here as they fire off the Ice Beam. Come back in with the Talonflame just to be farmed down, and once again, Azumarill is going to concede the match up against the triple Frigibax evolution line. So GG's to opponent there into the next battle. We're going to see Delmice once again into Talonflame. So again, going to fire off the Astonish, then swap into Dragalge, and this time met with a Hypno, a Pokemon that I've not seen in quite a long time, and honestly, it's not particularly good for that Dragalge. Of course, my harder hitting move in Focus Blast is going to be resisted, so now I'm just going to spam out some Aqua Tails. The first two do not get shielded, but we reach a third Aqua Tail before the opponent throws a charge move, and as well, they don't commit to the farm down, instead using their energy. So at this point, we grab a shield advantage. That is probably the best thing we could have gotten out of that matchup. So at this point, we're going to come back in with Delmice, and they've thrown a Thunder Punch so far. I'm going to no shield, and it is just a second Thunder Punch, so that's good for me. They're going to come back in with the Talonflame. Again, we go for one Astonish. We swap out there, and unfortunately met with a Lantern. So two sort of throwback Pokemon here in Hypno and Lantern. Lantern may be seeing a little bit of a revival this season, but either way, we are going to no shield. The opponent full sends a Thunderbolt. We are saving both our shields for the Delmites, and here, what I'm not going to do is throw a charge route. I realize if I throw here, Talonflame comes in, and they can Incinerate farm me down. Instead, we're committing to the full Astonish farm down. I'm going to throw this first wrap straight away, assuming the opponent would throw immediately, so we win CMP, and we grab the shield, and as well, we drop their defense. So now, I can shield at the Flame Charge, fire off one more Astonish, not take any damage from the Incinerate, and Wrap, because I've debuffed their defense, gets the KO up against the Talonflame, and I'm able to take that game. Let's go into the first battle in Galvantula into Shadow Victory Bell. So definitely where we need to see it with this team. We've got 2 Pokemon double weak to the grass typing. I'm going to go and fire off a lunge just before they reach a potential Sludge Bomb. Lunge, going to be no shielded. So at this point, I think I'm just going to shield the Galvantula. And actually, because I've got an ABB style team, I'm going to swap out into Barbaracle, get a Fury Cutter, energy advantage into whatever they've got in the back, and they come in with a Jellicent. My thinking behind that swap was also, they've got a grass type in the lead. They hopefully don't have a second grass type in the back, and if they did, I do need to bait it out with my Barbaracle. But either way, the opponent fires off a Shadow Ball, dealing big damage, but Barbaracle able to hang on and reach a second Stone Edge. First one goes unshielded, the second one does grab a shield from the opponent, and at this point, I'm happy to let the Barbaracle go down. Now, of course, since my Galvantula is not on discharge, I don't think I can get a KO from this range with only resisted charge moves, so we're actually going to come in with the Kabutops, and I'm going to no-shield the first move. The opponent fires off the Surf there. Surf, we don't tank it that comfortably, but we do tank it. I'm going to go and fire off an Ancient Power just before they reach the next move, and the opponent uses their final shield. So at this point, I'm thinking, if they're using their shield here, they must have a Fire type in the back. So we're going to use the final shield. We can now fire off an Ancient Power. I don't need that much HP to take out a Fire type, and we also get the Ancient Power boost. That is huge for me, because now I can fire off the Water Pulse, and of course Water Pulse with that boost gets the one shot up against the Skeledirge, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle. You can see a Dugong in the lead. So, of course, tricky matchup for me. Gonna say swap into my Shadow Beedrill, and the opponent actually responds with a Shadow Drapion. This is not a good matchup for them. As Drill Run gonna hit for super effective damage. It does grab an early shield. And at this point, I'm just gonna match shields here. We do have an energy advantage, so unless they double bait me, I should still be able to comfortably win this matchup here. And even so, we do have probably enough energy to reach 2 more drill runs anyways, even if they did go for back-to-back Aqua Tails. They're going to go for the Aqua Tail bait here, but it doesn't matter. I can reach the drill run, and drill run, of course, going to hit for super effective. It gets the KO from that range. They're going to come back in with the Dugong, and Beedrill able to outpace them to the next charge as well. X's are going to hit for neutral damage. We get them into the yellow health range, and the opponent will be over-farming here before firing off the Icy Wind to get the KO. Of course, I'm going to come in with my Scolipede. They will actually outpace me to that charge move because they've just, of course, over-farmed up against my Beedrill, but we can tank this, not particularly comfortably, but we do tank it, and their final Pokemon, once again, gonna be Dedenne, and we are debuffed, but Scolipede doesn't care. Sludge Bomb gets the one-shot. I'm now going to swap back into the Regidrago. I'm taking super effective damage here, but it doesn't matter. I'm able to outpace them to the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's up on there into next battle. See a nightmare lead for us. Shadow Drifblim, big core breaker to the team, of course. Articuno weak to the Astonishes, and then Zapdos going to hit for triple resisted fast move pressure with those counters. So I stay in there. We grab a shield advantage. This is a Shadow Drifblim, so I will just be shielding straight away. And the opponent's going to swap into Diggersby, and now we do have a lifeline. Of course, going to come in with a Zapdos. I'm going to double resist the Scorching Sands. They go for Fire Punch, but again, Fire Punch does quite a lot of damage, and I do not throw here because I want to come out with a charge move loaded. So what we're going to do, we're now going to over-farm here, farming up to very close, no, actually at the back-to-back flies. And of course, Fly will be enough damage now to get the KO there. They come in with a Shadow Drapion, but I'm now going to reach a close combat. So close combat is not respected. It gets the one shot, and now it just depends. Can we tank this? Of course, the opponent is going to debuff my attack. We do hang on. And can we get the Sucker Punch farm down? Yes, Moltres able to get there in time, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's up on there into next battle. We can see a Clodsire, and we definitely need to see it here in the lead. So we are going to go straight for the Surf there, and we'll outpace them before they reach a potential Stone Edge, and we grab a shield from the opponent. Now, Surf actually not going to do that much damage in this matchup. However, I'm happy to grab a shield here. They bait with a Sludge Bomb. They then swap into Cresselia, so I'm going to bank a ton of energy and then swap and catch a Grass Knot onto Toxtricity. Of course, that is resisted damage there. We are now going to farm up a lot of energy. I recognize that Wild Charge won't quite get the KO here, so instead I bait with a Power Up Punch. We grab the shield and we throw a Wild Charge on the CMP ties. That works out perfectly for me, and that is the situation like we see in the sort of Sims on PvPoke where Toxtricity can be deadly. However, in practice it just doesn't work out that way a lot of the time. But anyways, gonna come back in with the Celio, gonna fire off the Surf. Surf is going to connect there, and I can reach a body slam before the opponent throws the next charge move. So this point, I put them into range where I can just powder snow farm them down. I should live an earthquake here, as they have already revealed sludge bomb. We're now going to swap into Polmort, and this is going to be game over. The opponent recognizing that, and so they're just going to concede the match. So, GG stop on there into the next battle. We're going to see Milotic into a Shadow Gligar. So this is a good matchup for me, and actually, my entire team's going to be fairly okay up against Gligar. Of course, Fury Cutter going to hit for neutral damage up against Milotic and Metang, but Goldengo actually double resists it. Now here, I'm expecting to grab a shield, so we bait with the Wrap, and Wrap, of course, does have that 100% chance. Well, I don't even know why I say 100% chance. That's just what it says when they roll out these new moves, but it has the 100% guarantee that it will drop the opponent's defense. Now at this point, I tried to catch the charge move there, it didn't work out, so forced to use both my shields on my shiny Shadow Metang, which is definitely not ideal. And again, we're met with a Jellicent, a Pokemon that will be core breaking the team. However, we got a huge energy advantage. We fire off back-to-back Side Shocks, and the opponent cannot really afford to overfarm by much. So Shadow Ball gets the KO there. I think they are 3 away from another Shadow Ball. So we're going to come in with the Goldengo, fire off 3 hexes, then swap, catch the charge move onto my Milotic here. Shadow Ball gets the KO there. They're going to swap into their final Pokemon, a Shadow for Alligator, and Goldengo able to outpace them to the charge move. Shadow Ball gets the one shot there. They come back in with Gligar, and they did overfarm earlier, so I'm now just going to full send the Power Gem. It gets the KO. They come back in with the Jellicent, but Goldengo able to win CMP, reaching another Power Gem. And once again, Power Gem gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG stop on there into the next batch to see the same lead. So this time the opponent actually going to throw immediately here, not actually farming to the CMP tie. It doesn't really make a difference here. I'm not going to try and make a catch, as my backline is also going to be weak to ice. And we do tank it a lot more comfortably here. This time I'm actually choosing to just stay in with Lily. We saw Nidoking wouldn't quite get a full Fury Cutter farm down if I tried to snipe them. So instead, we're going to come in with the Nidoqueen, get ahead on energy, and we do have double nukes here. So let's see. The opponent's going to come in with a Shadow Swampert, so I'm going straight for the Earth Power. Of course, I do not have the opportunity to bait, so we full send the nuke there, and unfortunately they do end up shielding. At this point, I think I'm going to have to let the Nidoqueen go down. Shadow Nidoking does have more fast move pressure with these Fury Cutters, and you can see they are actually kind of chunking up against this Swampert now. I don't know what they've got in the back here. It's quite risky to go for a Sand Tomb bait, as the opponent might end up no shielding, and it would not get the KO, so I full send the Earth Power, but unfortunately they do double shield their Shadow Swampert. But look at the damage we've dealt with the Fury Cutters. I'm committing to the farm down. We get the farm down, and they've got a Flygon in the back if it's Shadow. Then Earth Power gets the one shot up against the Shadow Flygon, and somehow Shadow Nidoking coming in clutch to take that game. Let's go into the first battle, leading Regidrago into Shadow Sizzle. So of course this is not a good matchup for me, but I cannot swap out of this matchup because Regigigas is just going to be fully farmed down probably before we even reach a Crush Grip. So we're going to stay in. We will at least reach a Dragon Energy, and this is such a good charge move that it will force a shield from the opponent. Otherwise, we would win the zero shield scenario. Now we come in with Regieleki. Excuse the plane going over my head. I do live right next to an RAF base, so hopefully it's not too loud, but we shield up the Trailblaze. Even resisted bullet punches do huge damage, but they come in with the Dene. I'm full sending the Hyper Beam, and it gets the one shot. They do not respect the damage. Their final Pokemon is Jellicent, and this might be one of the only Pokemon where Regigigas, whilst we're still not going to win this matchup in the one shield scenario, can at least have some play. And here we're just going to fire off the Crush Grip immediately. Crush Grip is going to be double resisted. However, it grabs the final shield, and Regieleki, insane Glass Cannon, but we should just barely live one more Hex, reach a Thunder Cage, and Thunder Cage, of course, going to hit for super effective damage. It will be enough to take out the Jellicent, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG stop on there into the next battle. You can see Gastrodon in the lead, and I'll be honest, I saw Gastrodon in the lead in like 50% of my battles. It was kind of outrageous, but it is the most common Pokemon I've seen in this meta. Pretty much every single team has a Gastrodon and either a Drapion or some sort of Drapion-esque Pokemon like this Quillfish here. At this point, I'm actually just going to overfarm. I didn't throw a Charge Move there just because I realized the opponent will just be able to commit to a full farm down. I'd rather they just throw their energy there as an Icy Wind not going to get the KO anyways. The opponent fires off a debuffed Aqua Tail. The opponent is eventually going to swap back into Gastrodon, so now it's time to come back in with the Wormadam, and this time the opponent is going to go ahead and fire off the Body Slam. Of course, Body Slam not going to do too much damage here, however, it is going to start adding up over time. We've got 2 shields, I might as well use one of them here. We're now going to overfarm massively, and I'm going to throw a Bug Buzz just before they reach the next Body Slam. Bug Buzz gets the KO there. I don't think Bulldoze would have quite done enough damage there. But at this point, I'm going to use my final shield. I recognize Electivire has so much energy, and its energy is going to be useful into pretty much anything. So Bulldoze gets the KO there. They come in with an Overquill. So at this point, just going to force them to throw the energy straight away. And Electivire, I believe, is 2 away from back-to-back Wild Charges. We farm there, and we get there before the opponent reaches an Aqua Tail. First Wild Charge, grabs the final shield, and of course, a second Wild Charge up against Overquill, gets that one shot, and I'm able to take that game. That game, but GG's to that trainer. Finally into the next battle, a good lead matchup for me, but they're going to say swap into Shadow Swampert. I don't have a great response. I come in with the Flygon just because I realize, of course, it's going to be useless up against the Mamoswine. However, what I kind of forget is that if I do take out the Swampert here, I mean, they're just going to be able to Powder Snow farm me down, and I kind of do need to fight for switch advantage. So at this point, we're in a really awkward position. We do get that Dragon Tail farm down. They're going to come back in with the Mamoswine. Those Powder Snows absolutely chunking the Shadow Flygon. I'm going to swap there, but I did not expect the opponent to no-shield that, and unfortunately, they come in with a Flygon. They can just shield once, commit to a full Dragon Tail farm down, and there's just not much I can do here. So at this point, I'm going to come in with my Flygon, basically just force them to try and farm me down here, in which case the opponent tries to go for one extra fast move there, and as a result, Tramper able to Dragon Breath, farm down the rest of the team, and take that game. So, GG's up in there into next battle, neutral lead. I'm going to swap into my Shadow Victory Belt, and I'm met with a Piloswine. So, I'm going to try and throw on CMP. It doesn't work out for me. The opponent is going to overfarm, and if they want to, they can go for a very aggressive double shield and full Powder Snow farm down, and the opponent looking to do exactly that. That is really not ideal for me since, as I mentioned, the entire team is going to be weak to ice. However, the opponent is going to waste some turns here by throwing charge moves, which might allow Oddish to actually catch up and reach a Seed Bomb. The opponent fires off back-to-back Icicle Spears here. I should be able to reach a charge move on CMP, and Oddish turns out wins CMP in this matchup. That is amazing for me. A Seed Bomb gets the KO there. They're going to come in with Credilli. They're on Bullet Seed. I'm going to swap out, catch what I'm presuming to be a Rock Tomb onto Zygarde, where it will be resisted. I expect the opponent will eventually swap back into Breloom, and that's absolutely fine. This is what I want. The opponent is going to, of course, tank a Bulldoze here. I actually go for a slight undercharge just to get more energy on the Oddish. The opponent forced to throw a charge move here. They go for Dynamic Punch, but that's okay, as actually I put them into range, but I don't need to take a single Force Palm. And whilst, yes, Rock Tomb is going to hit for neutral damage, Oddish, not the bulkiest Pokemon ever. I should still live this, and I will, of course, double resist the Bullet Seeds. I could have gone for the Seed Bomb there, but instead, we're going to full send the Sludge Bomb. Oddish gets the KO up against Credilli, and I'm able to take that game. Let's go into the first battle, leading Shadow Dragonair into Dedenne. So, of course, not a great matchup for me. I'm actually going to say swap into Seviper. Later on down the line, I did use Arbok as a say swap just because Seviper gets completely walled by any Ghost-type Pokemon and quite a lot of other Pokemon as well. So, I think having that Dark Pulse coverage on the Arbok is a lot better. And I will just say Seviper, in general, didn't really benefit that much from having Wrap. I think Crunch is better coverage. Wrap doesn't hit anything for super effective damage. And Poison Fang already guarantees to drop the opponent's defense anyways. It's cheaper as well, so, and it is also stab damage, so yeah, not really any reason to use Wrap other than the fact that I just wanted to showcase 3 buffed Pokemon this season. But anyways, they're going to come in with their Dugong, so we're going to go for the Wrap, debuffing their defense, swapping into my Arbok, and now I've got a very important call here. Are they going to full send the Duron? I'm calling that. Nope, they're going to go for the Icy Wind. They now swap back into Dedenne, and I'm going straight for the Sludge Wave. Sludge Wave, we have been debuffed, but it easily gets the KO there. They're going to come back in with the Dugong, and I can outpace them to the next charge attack. I am debuffed here, but the opponent is going to use their final shield. So now all I need to do here is shield up the next Icy Wind, bank a Sludge Wave before swapping out to clear the debuff, and then Arbok, if they do have a charge move loaded, should be winning CMP. The opponent goes for the Ice Shard farm down anyways. Sludge Wave gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle. You can see Greninja in the lead. So, honestly, actually not that ideal for me. But the opponent is going to be safe swapping into Dusclops anyway. So, I already think I know the team. It's going to be Clodsire in the back. This is a team that Homesize Henry showcased a good few weeks ago. Maybe even a month ago at this point. I don't know. But either way, this is where I want to see the Dusclops. Obviously, going to resist the Bug Bite damage from my two back Pokemon. And if it is Clodsire in the back, I want to have my Escavalier aligned, as we do have access to Drill Run. But gonna no shield here. They will actually significantly outpace me to the next move, but I have grabbed a shield advantage. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna no shield, let the Wormadam go down, gonna come in with my Durant, and they are probably gonna reach 2 more charge moves here. The opponent fires off the Shadow Punch. We're committing to that Bug Bite farm down, and we actually get the farm down just as they're reaching the move. Now we come in with Shadow Escavalier, and look at that Bug Bite damage. The opponent swaps out there, back into Greninja. Doesn't help them. They get the boost, but again, that does not help them as we get the full Bug Bite farm down. And now I will definitely be able to reach 2 Drill Runs. First one, gonna grab the final shield there. Drill Run will not be enough damage to get the KO. However, it will actually put them into Bug Bite farm down range. If not for the Shadow Escavalier, then definitely for the Durant. So Drill Run number 2 does big damage there. The opponent gonna be forced to throw pretty much straight away. And I believe Durant does already have an X-Scissor loaded, so whilst I could commit to the farm down, instead, let's just fire off the charge move, guarantee that win. X-Scissor gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on their into next battle. You can see Annihilate in the lead, so not really ideal for me. And again, another Pokemon that, well, not only resist, but double resist the bug type damage here. So, we're going to swap into Vespiquen. The opponent banks a ton of energy before swapping into a Charger Bug. And honestly, that energy advantage is going to come in handy for me, because now I can still no shield this. I will reach another Power Gem. However, Charger Bug, fairly bulky. They will just barely live this and still get that Volt Switch farm down. But didn't really want to use a shield there. We're now going to come in with the Heliolisk. They do come out with an X-Scissor loaded. They do Blind Throw, and maybe we could have come in with the Ledian there and take the resisted damage. But either way, we swap into our Shadow Ledian, and the opponent comes in with Feraligatr. Now, I'm going to shield this up here. Hydrocannon is going to do a decent amount of damage. Even if they have Ice Punch on their Annihilate, I should be able to tank it better than a Hydrocannon from the Feraligatr. And at this point, I recognize I can commit to a full Bug Bite farm down, not throw a charge attack, and come out with 2 Aerial Aces loaded. So the opponent fires off their charge move here. The opponent is on Ice Punch, but Ledian able to tank it. I'm firing off the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace going to be no shielded, so I swap back into Heliolisk, and as a result, able to reach the Breaking Swipe, winning CMP. Breaking Swipe grabs the final shield, but Ledian had 100 energy before throwing that Aerial Ace. A Rage Fist actually does not get the KO there, does not make a difference. Honestly, I'm kind of disappointed I didn't go for the Dynamic Punch for the BM, but either way, doesn't really matter. Aerial Ace, when it does connect, takes out the Annihilate, and I'm able to take that game. I'm heading into the first battle with this team. I need Shadow Donphan into Quagsire, and they are on Water Gun, so I'm going to have to swap out. We swap into our Furfrou, and I'm met with a Shadow Blaziken, so things are pretty much going as badly as they could be. We're able to grab a shield from the opponent, but they can fully counter, farm me all the way down. Unfortunately, Surf, costing 45 energy these days. Furfrou just not that spammy, but we can come in with the Shadow Donphan, and likewise, Shadow Blaziken also not going to get to the charge moves very quickly, and as a result, I only have to use 1 shield. I can now wait for the Quagsire to come back in, fire off that Trailblaze, likely grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and then swap into my Spinder. Now, the opponent is going to fire for charge move here. I don't know what they've got in the back, so I'm actually going to shield this, and the opponent's going to full send the Stone Edge, so I'm definitely glad I shielded. I can now overfarm massively, fire off the Icy Wind from this range. This should get the KO, and it does. And their final Pokemon is going to be a regular Cantonian Farfetch'd, which is a really cool Pokemon to see. Rock Tomb does decent damage there, and a Leaf Blade or an Air Cutter, whatever they throw, not going to get the KO now. We can actually commit to a Sucker Punch farm down, taking out the Farfetch'd, and I'm able to take that game. Let's go into the first battle, leading Sunflora into Talonflame. So, of course, this is not the matchup we want to see. So, I'm going to go for 1 Bullet Seed, swap into my Cast Form, and the opponent responds with Azumarill. And I think you guys probably already know what's going to happen in this battle. The opponent just going to go straight for an Ice Beam. Both Ice Beam and Play Rough are resisted. Play Rough is Stab. But anyways, let's not focus on that. Instead, Solar Beam gets the one-shot up against the Azumarill. We flip switch advantage. They come back in with the Talonflame. I'm going to go for 7 Embers, fire fire off the Weather Ball. Weather Ball grabs a shield. They've just been nuked by a Solar Beam, but Cast Form is still not done yet. We get off another Weather Ball before they farm me down, and now we can come in with the Soul Rock, completely wall the energy. Although if they do go for a Flame Charge here, I might consider shielding the next move, just because, of course, they will start boosting up their attack and dealing more damage. But the opponent comes in with their final Pokemon, a Ferrothorn. Not really ideal for me. Now that, of course, the Cast Form is out of the way, but we can swap, catch the Resisted Power Whip onto my Sunflower. It looks like they're lagging there, but apparently not, as we can see the opponent then catches up, and that ends up being a CMP tie. So I'm very glad I didn't stop attacking there. Usually I do, so that is something to note. If you do see opponent lagging, maybe continue attacking just for a little bit, just to make sure that they are not just visual lagging. But anyways, we're going to come back in after landing the Leaf Storm, go for a Rock Slide. Rock Slide is going to grab that final shield, and at this point all we've got to do is make sure the opponent does not make the catch there. The opponent swaps back into Talonflame, and actually, you know what, we're just going to fire off the Charge Beam here. They're in range where I can just Psywave, farm down the Ferrothorn, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG swap in there. Into next battle, going to see a Macargo in the lead. So, of course, not ideal for me. I've got two very strong answers in the back. The opponent is going to hard punish us, though, as we come in with our Taurus. They come in with a Mantine. Trailblaze, not going to do too much damage there. I'm hoping that if I shield once, I can grab a shield back from the opponent. So, I'm actually going to shield this as they fire off the Aerial Ace. I have got them into the yellow health range here, so Trailblaze probably going to grab a shield. But no, they actually no-shield, recognizing they can live that still. So I'm actually forced to double-shield my Taurus here. I need switch advantage. And we do come out, of course, with a Charge Beam loaded. They're going to come in with a Cradilly. We're double boosted, so Aqua Jet does force a shield from the opponent. And now we can come in with the Berserker, of course, going to completely wall the energy here, unless they're running Bulldoze, which is very unlikely, and it's a rubbish move anyway, so they probably wouldn't have it. And either way, we're going to go for the close combat now. This should be grabbing the final shield from the opponent, so now we can swap into the Urshifu, completely wall the energy. If they full send an Overheat, that will still do a lot of damage, but they fire off the Rock Tomb, perfectly fine with me. I'm going to look to overfarm, throw an Aqua Jet on the CMP tie, winning CMP, getting the KO there, and remember, I have been debuffed, so what I don't want to do is throw the Aqua Jet on CMP, because if the opponent committed to the farm down there, we might end up losing. So instead, I force them to throw their energy straight away, which means Berserker can come in, outpace them to the close combat. Close combat gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. Honestly, nothing I could do but GG's to that trainer into next battle, and a slightly more manageable lead, but still not ideal for me, and definitely not ideal as the opponent comes in with a rollout Blastoise, hitting for double super effective. Of course, Rock super effective up against both the Rock and the Bug typing. I'm actually going to shield here just because I recognize I can grab a shield back from the opponent, and potentially, if they try to commit to a farm down, maybe we do reach another lunge this time around, but the opponent is actually just going to throw straight away, so that's probably better for me. I honestly don't know, even with a double debuff, if I could have reached another move there, but now we come in with that Scolipede. I'm going to no-shield this. They are double debuffed. Hydro Cannon still does quite a lot of damage, but now I can commit to a full Poison Sting farm down. Now, energy is going to be resisted by that Corsola, but they actually come in with a Shadow Pidgeot. I'm going straight for Sludge Bomb here. Sludge Bomb gonna be no-shielded, and I barely hang on, which means I can bank an X-Scissor, get the snipe with my Sizzlipede. The opponent must not have been running Air Cutter as a charge move, not reaching a move there before we farm them down. They fire off the Nightshade, and at this point, my win condition is pretty clear. The opponent needs to try and commit to a full Astonish farm down, and they do, and not only that, Sizzlipede getting damage registration error. Crunch grabs the final shield. We drop their defense, and remember, we banked that X-Scissor. So X-Scissor is resisted, but it gets the KO up against the Corsola. And somehow, despite the opponent having 3 counters to this team, we come out with the victory. So GG's to that trainer there. So GG's to open there into the next battle. You can see Palkia into Gastrodon. So last time I ran this team, Gastrodon wasn't super common. I have seen it a fair few more times this time around, and it is a little bit problematic for me. I don't have a great response. Palkia is my best option. The opponent swaps. They try to catch a Spatial Rend onto their Tapu Fini, and of course, a Fairy type Pokemon up against a triple Dragon team should be problematic, but they've also got resisted damage with the Water Guns. I'm going to shield here, and if they do full send, actually a Moonblast, I was going to say if they full send a Nature's Madness, I should just barely outpace them because I did swap out fairly quickly. But actually, since they go for Moonblast, I'm definitely outpacing them to the next move. And at this point, all shields are down. I do expect if I shield this, the opponent will probably try and swap back into Gastrodon, and the opponent is going to do exactly that. I didn't actually quite bank a Fusion Bolt there, so that is something I need to be wary of. But Spatial Rain doesn't quite get the KO. We get the Dragon Breath farm down there, but their final Pokemon is Virizion, and I feel like Virizion in this meta, they might have Leaf Blade or Sacred Sword, but they are definitely going to run Stone Edge for that coverage up against Fire types, so Reshiram is going to be in a little bit of trouble here, but we should just barely live a Stone Edge from full health. The opponent full sends it. I expect they swap back into Tapu Fini. I'm able to overfarm. I throw on CMP here. Fusion Bolt gets the KO there, but I'm not going to reach another charge move unless the opponent commits to a full farm down there, underestimating the energy, and as a result, Fusion Bolt gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's to opponent there. Now we are running Dragon Breath, and instantly we are going to see why this is so much better for the Charizard. We say swap into it. The opponent probably just expecting Talonflame, looking at that typing, wanting to be quick with that swap. They come in with a Kingdra, and the opponent does not get the debuff there, which means this is a winning matchup for the Charizard, as we can fire off another Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw gets the KO there, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. They come back in with the Skeleturge, but Charizard is not done just yet. We can now fire off a Blast Burn. Blast Burn does big damage, and look at the work Charizard has just put in with Dragon Breath for the fast move. Of course, if I was running Ember and we swapped in and we saw that Kingdra, that would have been an awful matchup for me. But now we can come in with the Blastoise, farm up to the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is going to grab the final shield. They swap into Belly Bolt. There's no point swapping out straight away. I might as well go straight for a Hydro Cannon here before they can boost up the defense. And now we can come in with that Venusaur. Of course, I've still got a shield. It doesn't really matter. I don't need to shield anything. Frenzy Plant gets the KO there. The opponent just going to concede the match as there's nothing they can do, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's top on there into next battle. You can see a shiny Shadow Drapion in the lead. So I'm going to stay in this matchup initially, fire off a Dragon Claw, and then I will swap into my Shadow Palkia. They've not thrown straight away, so we can get off a few Dragon Breaths there. Well, one Dragon Breath. I'm going to no-shield this, and Crunch does so much damage there. Honestly, Giratina probably tanks that more comfortably, and even worse, they come in and double-resisted Bubble Farm me down with Azumarill. That is certainly not ideal there. We don't even reach an Arctotel before they farm me down, but now we're coming back in with the Shadow Giratina. We need that neutral Shadow Claw damage, so I'm actually probably going to double shield in this matchup. We fire off the Ancient Power, not dealing too much damage as it is non-stab, but at this point I'm definitely going to double shield. If they swap back into Drapion, I should be able to snipe them with my Shadow Dialga, and now we're at back-to-back Ancient Power. So if the opponent wants to maintain alignment here, they're going to have to double shield. So they do end up shielding the first one. We're going for Ancient Power number 2. Ancient Power is going to grab that final shield, and the opponent actually over farming. I'm able to reach a last-second Dragon Claw, and whilst yes, it's double resisted, that puts them into Dragon Breath farm down range. So of course, Blaroth gets the KO there. We come in with Dialga, and their final Pokemon is Superior, a Pokemon that we completely wall here. The opponent is going to go for a double resisted Frenzy Plant. We actually tanked that relatively comfortably, but a second Frenzy Plant will put us into the deep red health range. So we fire off the Iron Head. Iron Head gets the KO. They come back in with the Drapion just to be fully farmed down there, and I'm trying to commit to a Draco Meteor BM, but unfortunately we actually get the Dragon Breath farm down first. But either way, I'm able to take that game. Alright, so go into the first battle, leading Overquill into Shadow Typhlosion. Now, this is a playable lead matchup, but I do have two water types in the back. One of them fairly bulky, and the other one also only going to take neutral damage from Thunder Punches, so I don't mind swapping out here into Dondoza. Unfortunately, met with an Araquanid, but kind of good to bait it out here. My Tatsugiri would be pretty useless in the situation, just because Bug Bites would absolutely shred us. But the opponent gonna bait with a Bubble Beam. This likely going to be another Bubble Beam, and I recognize straight away my switch clock is coming up, so I might as well just bank all of that energy, swap back into my Overquill. Unfortunately, they reach yet another Bubble Beam, but this does give me a huge opportunity to farm up extra energy, farming up to a Shadow Ball and an Aquatel. Shadow Ball gets the KO there. If they come back in with the Shadow Typhlosion, I'm not going to throw straight away. Instead, I'm going to look to go for two Poison Stings, throwing on Good Timing. If the opponent wants to throw on Good Timing here, they're going to go for an extra Incinerate, which will actually allow me to reach yet another Aquatel here. Going to grab the final shield. I could try and snipe with my Dondozo, but the opponent actually probably predicting that, so they swap out into their final Pokemon in Credilli. But now we can come in with the Tatsugiri here. Unfortunately, with the energy advantage, they will outpace me to that first charge move, but they don't go for a Rock Tomb. Instead, full sending a Grass Knot, which means now we're not debuffed. I can full send an Outrage. Outrage gets the KO there up against Credilli. They come back in with Shadow Typhlosion. I actually do not need to shield here as Thunder Punch doesn't quite get the KO. And at this point, I could shield this and go for the Water Gun farm down, but it doesn't really make a difference here. We come in, one more Water Gun from Dondozo, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's top end there into the next battle. We're going to see Dedenne in the lead. This is definitely not ideal. Another core breaker to the team. What we're going to do, I assume they're just going to go straight for a Parabolic Charge. So I'm going to swap out one turn early, allowing me to catch the move onto Vikavolt, but also get an X-Scissor through, which means I will outpace them to the next charge move. Of course, they boosted up the defense there, and both my charge moves are resisted anyways, so it wouldn't have done much damage, but they do actually swap out into a Kanto Marowak. And they do go for the full farm down, but we get them fairly low here. I can come in with the Shadow Starmie. They actually throw straight away, so kind of wishing I came in with the Talonflame, but that's okay. What I'm going to do now is assume they're going to throw straight away once again, which they do, which allows me to, first of all, swap out one turn early and get a full Incinerate through, and also catch a resisted Bone Club. Now they come back in with the Dedenne, but because we get the farm down, I'm actually ahead on energy. Fly is going to grab the first shield here from the opponent. I'm going to shield my Talonflame here. I will outpace them to the next charge move as well. And Fly, even though they've just boosted up the defense, will get the KO from this range. The opponent, no shields, and their final Pokemon is going to be a Drifblim. So I'm going to bank the Fly. I swap back into Starmie. I'm going straight for Ice Beam, and Ice Beam is going to grab the final shield. But you can see my Talonflame IVs are not ideal, and as a result, we can win CMP here, going for the Fly, and Fly from the Shadow Talonflame gets the KO up against the Drifblim, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see Macargo in the lead. Obviously, not a great lead matchup, but we're going to say swap into Shadow Giratina, and I'm going to go straight for a Dragon Claw. Now, of course, the opponent can go for a Rock Tomb debuff in my attack, so they do shield the first charge move, and now they fire off that Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb going to do decent damage there. They then swap into a Shadow Dust Noir, and they are going to go for an Astonished Farm Down, but not before we do reach a Dragon Claw, getting them into the yellow health range. At this point, we're going to come in with that Shadow Talonflame, and we're just going to look to deal as much damage as possible with the Incinerates. Now, they should be at back-to-back charge moves here, or sorry, one away from back-to-back. So we come in with the Dragapult, we get that snipe with the Astonished damage, and honestly, with the damage we've already dealt to that Macargo, they are potentially in range where a Brave Bird might even get the KO. But at this point, I'm waiting for the opponent to throw here. The opponent's going to go for a double-resisted Superpower for some reason. This is just going to be another Superpower. I do not mind that whatsoever. Superpower is going to get us fairly low, but not in range where an Incinerate gets the KO. At this point, I recognize the opponent probably going to go for an Overfarm, which means I can now come in with the Talonflame, reach a Fly. Fly is going to grab the final shield here. They should still be one away from the next charge move. So Rock Tomb gets the KO. We're at back-to-back Breaking Swipes now after going for one Astonish. Breaking Swipe takes out Macargo. One more Breaking Swipe will, of course, take out the Chestnut from this range. And Dragapult, once again, going for that sweep, taking out the Chestnut, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.